Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Rad Legend Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And I'm your host, Mark Radulich. Yay! And that's because Robert Winfrey has a contractually mandated no on certain movies. The entire comedy genre being one of them. So, we made the offer for him to be on the podcast for tonight's offering. We are reviewing the sequel to Coming to America, number 2, not T.O., which debuted today, as a matter of fact, on Amazon Prime. We made him the offer. He said no thanks, and then he went into walk into the woods to live deliberately. However, I did send out the call. I knew, people would be talking about this movie. This was a big movie weekend. We had Ray and the Last Dragon. SpongeBob debuted on at Paramount Plus. This was dropping simultaneously. There's also Cherry, which if you can find it in the theater before it debuts on Apple Plus next week, good for you. There was just a lot going on. Moxie debuted on Netflix, which I also watched today. But I knew at least one of the movies that was going to get a lot of, at least Twitter conversation was Coming to America. So I threw it out there. I said, hey, does anyone actually want to talk about this? And one brave soul answered the call. He said, well, I'm going to watch it anyway, so I might as well watch it, get drunk, and complain about it with you. And I said, that's what I'm here for. Ladies and gentlemen, the B-movie man himself will be joining me to talk about a great many nudie cuties coming up in the very near future. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Kickoff and the Black Irish Show, Jason Teasley. How do you do, sir?
And give it up for my band, Sexual Chocolate. I'm doing good, Mark. How you doing?
That was a funny bit, actually, in the movie. I enjoyed the Sexual Chocolate bit.
That is, I can count how many things I enjoyed in this movie on one hand.
That was one of them. Let's talk a little bit about the original. Did you see the original when it first came out?
Oh, yeah. I love the original. The original is one of my favorite. It's in my top 5 movies of all time.
Yeah, I was actually a big fan of Coming to America. It came out in 1988, which would have made me 12. I'm pretty sure if I didn't see it in the theater, I know I saw it. I saw it on cable or wherever it was. And I remember, in 1988, Eddie Murphy's at the height of his powers, I think, right? You've got let's see what was coming out around that time.
Yeah, that's when he was was that Raw and Delirious and.
I'm just pulling up his filmography now, which is huge, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's around the time he released Raw, Delirious. I'm thinking maybe 48 Hours was in that time frame.
All right, so his he debuts. He's in SNL before this, but his first feature was 1982, and that's 48 Hours, which my parents took me to see in the drive-in. Trading Places is 83, which was big for him, which is one of my favorite movies of that era. I love Trading Places. I've seen it like a zillion times. Of course, you've never seen Trading Places?
No, I've never seen Trading Places.
Oh my God, when we're done, go watch Trading Places with your wife and kid. It's hilarious. Then there's the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. The Golden Child, which, I don't know, that's like halvesies for me. I knew a lot of kids around the time The Golden Child came out in 86 were into it, but I don't remember it doing very well. You're right, Eddie Murphy Raw comes out in 87, and then this comes out in 88, which is followed by Harlem Nights, another 48 Hours, Boomerang, The Distinguished Gentleman, and then Beverly Hills Cop 3. After that, his career takes kind of a left turn. He starts doing a lot of the Nutty Professor type stuff. He got the voice role in Mulan. He's doing more. He started off, I think, with a more razor sharp, kind of edgy film film roles, and then around this time in the 90s, in the early 2000s, is when he starts doing a lot of children's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the only highlight after Beverly Hills Cop 3 was Life, and then it definitely tanks film-wise unless he's doing a voiceover. Because then we get the wonderful movie of in 2002, Pluto Nash.
That was a hell of a year for him. He did Showtime, The Adventures of Pluto Nash, and I Spy. But I will give him this. In 2019, he was in one of my favorite movies of that year, which, of course, I had no one to talk about it with, because who would? Dolomite Is My Name. That was my shit, let me tell you. That was one of my favorite movies of that year.
Oh, my... I figure. That's par for the course, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Definitely is par for the course.
That was right in my wheelhouse, man. But yeah, so what did you think of the? I think you said you liked the original Coming to America. It was a very funny movie. Probably of that era, probably one of his best, and one of the ones he is most remembered for. Would you say?
I didn't say none.
No, would you agree that that's probably the one he's most remembered for from that era?
Yeah, in that era, I would say it's either Coming to America or the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. Probably two. Probably because Beverly Hills Cop 2 came out the year prior. So that and Coming to America are probably his two main staples of the era that really put him on the map, especially the Beverly Hills Cop series. And then he hit another one with Coming to America, playing 12 different characters. Him and Arsenio Hall took home, 3/4 of the payroll for all the roles they played in the original Coming to America.
So in 2017, it was announcement was publicized which addressed the impending production of a sequel to the original film. Kevin Mishner was named producer, David Sheffield and Barry Blaustein. The original screenwriters were also attached to the project. However, a possible participation of lead actors Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall was left undefined. Obviously, they did get it together. I'm just going to say this. We talk a lot on this show about, this was originally intended for a theatrical release. I have it right here. It was initially scheduled to be released in theaters by Paramount Pictures August 7th of 2020, but was pushed back to December 18 before the COVID-19 pandemic began, and then after it did, in November, it was sold to Amazon Studios for $125 million for an exclusive digital distribution. And here's my thing. If they had made this exclusively for Amazon for the purposes of being distributed there, I could almost defend the decision to do this, because at this point, they're just trying to shove so much crap that people will just know from the title what it is and check it out on whatever streaming service, that I could see why they were doing that. For them to have done this to as a theatrical release, I'm like, why? Did we not say all we needed to say in the original film? Why are we doing this 30 years later? What story is out there that you think you can tell that warrants a 30 years later sequel? And boy, is that trend in Hollywood getting on my nerves by, the multiple decades later fucking sequel. Oh, yeah,
I'm right there with you. Like I said, I mean, if they would have done a true Coming to America sequel, I would have been on board. This was a bastardization of the first one. They did basically the same storyline from a different perspective. Instead of the prince going to New York, we bring the prince to Wakanda Light if you bought it off Wish. And I definitely got something to say about that coming up. But it's like they rehash. And the bad part about it, they make the joke in the movie about rehashing sequels and superhero movies and everything. And it's like, you're trying to be cute, but, you're being a little too spot on, and you're not making fun of yourself. You're just showing how much of a money grab that Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall is trying to get, because they know how beloved the original was. And then coming back to do this is a complete money grab to try to resurrect Eddie Murphy's career. Now, you said it was $120 million.
They bought it. Right? Yeah, they bought the thing for $125 million.
I wonder if they've got a buyer's remorse receipt that they can return this shit after 30 days, within 30 days. Because, like I said, it had some bright spots. I'm not going to say it was pure shit, but it did have its bright spots. Let's
get into. I wanted to give some background on the film, and kind of just get your perspective on the original before we jumped into it. But if we're going to get into the actual review of the film, let me do the plot synopsis first here, such as there is one. On the 30th anniversary of his wedding with Lisa McDowell, Prince Hakeem of Zamunda, which the best part about that was recently on Screen Junkies, they did a honest trailer for the first Coming to America and started showing side-by-side shots of Zamunda and Wakanda.
Yes, I watched that this morning before I went to work.
That was fantastic. Is summoned before his dying father, King Jaffe Jafar. Jaffe and his shaman Baba reveal to a baffled Hakeem that he has sired a son during his first visit in Queens, New York, after Semi had enticed two women into spending the night with them while Hakeem was still searching for his future queen. One of them drugged Hakeem, resulting in a tryst he did not remember, conveniently. Which is a gross... I mean, I don't want to comment too much about Leslie Jones. She did what she was required to as an actress for that scene and this whole movie. But yikes, lady. Maybe... I don't know what you're being offered these days, but maybe choose your roles a little bit better. Not everything has to be for the paycheck. Holy shit, that was a gross scene.
Yes.
Anyway,
but he did a good description of it, that he got mauled by a boar.
You leave Leslie Jones alone.
Man, the only person that is less attractive than her. Let me find. You know who I'm talking about. I think her actual name's Leslie too. She was in Boomerang.
I vaguely remember who you're talking about.
Go ahead. I'll bring. I'll let you. I'll tell you her name here in a second.
And since Zamundian tradition demands that only a male successor can inherit the throne, and Lisa has borne only daughters, Hakeem is forced to travel back to Queens to retrieve his son, or else face a violent takeover by Zamunda's militaristic neighbor nation, Nextdoria, because we've plumb run out of ideas. Whose dictator, General Izzy, who has a fantastic walk, by the way. Like, I kept watching this going, did they do takes where he just walks normal? And somebody said, what if we spice the scene up with the Ministry of Silly Walks bit? And someone said, yes. Go ahead.
By the way, Grace Jones is who I was referring to.
Grace Jones is not that unattractive. Not as unattractive as Leslie Jones.
It's a close comparison, but I digress. But I think
you know that you caught Conan the Destroyer, I think it is, on a Saturday morning on HBO. You know, before they stop putting anything with nudity that early on in the morning, and you caught some of that, and it was
Negative Ghost Rider.
And maybe that's just me then. General Izzy has repeatedly tried to push Hakeem into marrying his eldest daughter Mika to his foppish son Idi. Following King Jaffe's funeral and Hakeem's ascension as king, he and Semi travel to Queens to meet his illegitimate son Lavelle Johnson, to find him smart-mouthed ticket reseller struggling to get a real job. After an awkward reunion with his mother Mary, Hakeem takes them both, later followed by Lavelle's Uncle Reem, who is played by Tracy Morgan, who basically, in anything he does these days, just shows up and is Tracy Morgan, back to Zamunda. Much to his family's displeasure, when General Izzy learns of this, he drops by to introduce his daughter Bapoto to Lavelle as a last shot at laying claim to the throne of Zamunda. But in order to qualify as a royal prince, Lavelle firstly has to pass a series of traditional and somewhat hazardous tests. Lavelle is at first highly reluctant to place himself in danger, but then bonds with Mirembe, a royal groomer who tells him of Akeem's quest to find his queen and encourages him to follow his own path. Lavelle gradually develops an understanding with Akeem's family, and using his wits and some forced courage, he passes and is made Prince of Zamunda. However, at his ascension party, Lavelle overhears a conversation between Akeem and Izzy, which makes him believe that Akeem is just exploiting him, and he and Mirembe, Mary, and Reem depart back for New York. Upset at losing Mary, whom she has befriended, Lisa locks Akeem out of their bedroom, but after a talk with her father, who reminds him of the late Queen's Alion's progressive mind, Akeem flies back to the States, leaving Semi to stall Izzy, who intends to return one day to either see Boboto wedded off to Lavelle or declare war. Returning to Queens, Akeem finds that Lavelle and Mirembe are about to get married. Reminded of his own life story, he gives them his blessing and releases Lavelle from his royal obligations. In the meantime, Semi and the princesses fight off and subdue General Izzy like you do, forcing him to try a more diplomatic approach. Upon his return home, Akeem changes the royal succession tradition in the spirit of Aladdin. Am I the king or aren't I? By allowing Mika to ascend to the throne upon his death, which, while Lavelle is made an ambassador of Zamunda in New York, and General Izzy has opened Nextdoria for a peaceful political and traditional and trading relationship. The film concludes with a grand party at the royal palace where the Ewoks sang "Yub Yub." No, with Akeem's friends from Queens as special guests. Okay, I'm gonna pitch it to you first. I know you've been itching to get into the craft review of this thing. Give me the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good. There was a few callbacks that actually generally got a cackle out of me. The sexual chocolate reference. Of course, the barbershop. Anything in the barbershop is gold. I just wish they did have the PG-13 on it. Toward the middle of the movie, the whole thing changed for me. The first half of the movie was absolute dog shit. But, I mean, seriously, like when my wife looks at me and goes, "With such a great cast and they fuck up a movie this bad, there's something seriously wrong." But, like, in the middle of the movie, it actually started getting watchable. But it's like they rushed everything from. It's like you had a slow burn to the middle of the movie, and then it's like, okay, we have to get through this damn thing quick. We have 30 minutes left, and everything went like breakneck speed. And it's like, what the fuck? Now, like I said, I generally has some good moments. All the callbacks were fun. The Wesley Snipes pretty much being what I think Wesley Snipes on crack would have been on Blade 3. That's how I figured that he walked around set on Blade 3 when he was talking about his walk and everything. Then you had
Wesley Snipes looked like he was having the time of his life on this movie.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anyone gave a shit what the quality of the movie was. They all look like you could have paid them in peanuts, and they'd have been, well, not Wesley Snipes. I think he still owes money to the IRS. But everybody else was
you might have had to pay him in peanuts because he owes money to the IRS.
Yeah, really. I'll let you finish, but I have to say, the entire cast, if this can be considered a plus, looked like this was the most fun they'd worked on a movie in decades.
And if they would have just toned down, I mean, the stereotypes, everybody, it would. I think it would have been. Like I said, Leslie Jones is not a actress that I enjoy, but her being the really super loud, stereotypical African American female from the hood got on my nerves. Okay. I mean, they made her so over the top. It was really to watch her on screen. Now, the cast, I love the cast. I mean, you had people on the cast that, like you said, literally looked like they was enjoying. We had Michael B. Jordan, if you bought him off Wish.
Of course, you were referring to Jermaine Fowler.
Yeah, he even had the Michael B. Jordan haircut. That
had to have been purposeful. It had to have been. I'll tell you what.
There's seriously wrong.
His filmography's not that bad. He had a role in BoJack Horseman, among other things. He's been on Family Guy. He actually had his own show. He was on Superior Donuts, which I did not watch. He's in Judas and the Black Messiah. He's going to be on Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. So, I mean, he's a working actor. He's fine.
Like I said, there was only... If you would have took Leslie Jones out of it and just replaced all her scenes with Tracy Morgan, this movie would have been perfect, because she just takes so much out of the scenes that she's in by being that really loud, obnoxious, over the top.
Right.
It was cringeworthy, but I like the thing. Like, I wish they would have built up the brother-sister relationship a little bit more, instead of having one scene where they go from, in the matter of 10 minutes, it's, I'm pissed off because you're coming in here and taking over what's rightfully mine, to, here, 10 minutes later, here, I'm going to help you take over what's rightfully mine. There was nothing there. No bond.
Let me talk about that. So she's played by Kiki Lane, she's a pretty hell of an actress. She was in If Beale Street Could Talk, and Native Son, and The Old Guard. I think we talked about this with The Old Guard too. She has to be handled pretty well, because she sucks in The Old Guard, but she's a hell of an actress. So I tend to think that it's all in the project she takes and the director she's got. In any case, I think she's good here as Mika. The problem is her character sucks. They gave her nothing to do. You're supposed to feel sorry for her and be like, oh, we wish she would take... I mentioned the Aladdin thing before. So in Aladdin, clearly, but both the live-action remake and the cartoon, clearly you have a situation where the daughter should be ascending to the throne when the king passes. Clearly, she's been groomed and is ready for it, but because the law says no women, they have to go through the rigmarole with Aladdin, and then the resolution is, well, I'm the king, I'll just change the law. Done. You at least know who Aladdin is. You at least know who Jasmine is in both versions, and we criticized a lot about the remake, but I digress. I think the character itself was well written. And I think you have a reason to buy into wanting her to succeed. And so when she does, you as the viewer are satisfied with the conclusion, because, the rightful person got it. We've been on this ride with her. We've sympathized with her. We've watched her be in peril and be saved, and helping in that effect. This is a good, solid character for this kind of movie. We're glad she succeeded. There's none of that with Mika. Holy shit. She fights with sticks, and then the rest...
She's fucking Donatello from the Ninja Turtles.
And then the rest of the time, she's just giving dirty looks to the camera. They dressed her great, and she, and for the kind of performance that she's supposed to be giving, she's fine, she's serviceable, but she has no other character. Her character traits is fights with sticks. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the costume designs of this movie were phenomenal. I will say that. They were outstanding. But Mika was just, it was basically Brody, teenage daughter, gives pissed off look. And we're supposed to care about her being the rightful heir at the end. What I really liked is I really thought that, if it would just focus more on the dynamic between the brother-sister dynamic, the civil rivalry there, and you built the movie around that, I think this could have been good. But I think that you want to play the hits, basically. And you want to see Eddie Murphy. But I think if they would have just gave these two young actors, because they didn't do bad. They just had bad characters. Yeah. They was making chicken salad out of chicken shit. But they basically tied her down with cement shoes and not let her character developed. We didn't give a damn about her. We didn't give a damn about him either. I mean, it was all over the place.
I'll tell you what, in defense of him, I think he's got charm, and I think charm took him a long way in this film. It's not his fault, what they gave him to do was not great, but I think in the scenes that he's in, his charisma works in his favor and elevates those scenes in his performance. But I will tell you that the best part of this was his relationship and his scenes with Mirembe, who's played by, I'm gonna fuck this name up, and I'm sorry, Namzamo Mbatha. She's great. I actually was trying to figure out if I'd seen her in anything else, because she's one of the best parts of this movie. She actually, for the little bit they gave her to do, opposite Jermaine Fowler, I think the two of them had a lot of sexual chemistry. I think she gives good performance, and I think they work well. They were cute together on camera, and I actually did want to see a lot of the movie. What we did get when we weren't getting Eddie Murphy shtick or Arsenio Hall shtick was them being on screen together and slowly developing a relationship, and they don't get nearly enough time to fully develop it. It's rushed, but I'll take that over endless Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall shtick. And you made a good point there. Like, you come for the hits, sure, but then that leaves nothing else for the other characters to do, and then you don't really have a movie. You have a loosely knitted together group of SNL sketches.
Yeah, I think what would have been great about this movie is, in this 30 years, you would have already seen the passing of James Earl Jones and everybody, all the patriarchs, and have it Eddie Murphy and Arsenio have basically the same story, but basically do it like the if you're going to rip Black Panther off, do it right. Have Wesley Snipes find out about the son, bring him to claim the role, have him as an antagonist, set up as the antagonist against the daughter who they thought was going to take the role, and then build the story there.
I honestly would have preferred if they had just left the son character out of it, and instead Kiki Lane takes off for America, because she's going to get. Yeah, like, cut out that entire story of him having an illegitimate son. By the way, I know my sense of humor, and I know my shtick is to beat things into the ground, but if they had said bastard son one more fucking time in that movie, I was ready to throw my television into the backyard and just stop doing all the things, ever.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have let her followed her to America, I think that could have worked, and you could have played off that. Instead of having her going to New York, she went to L.A., Hollywood, something like that.
I wouldn't have. Well, no. Here's, if I'm pitching this story, keep Jermaine Fowler, keep Mbatha as kind of the Arsenio Hall to Kiki Lane's Eddie Murphy. And basically keep the same premise of, in order for Zamundia and Nextdoria to not go to war, we're going to marry his eldest daughter to his eldest son, and she's like, and establish her as like a good, strong, feminist character who, basically like a Jasmine, it basically says, like, I'm not going to marry just for political reasons, but it's like, well, that's what princesses do. Sorry. That's just the way it goes. That's the expectation. Royalty has done that for eons. Why are you fighting? Why are you fighting this? And have her say, because it's 2021. That's why, and I shouldn't have to marry against my will. And she fucks off to America and goes to Queens and is like in hiding basically. And then he has to go after her. I think that's a better movie.
Well, I wouldn't want him to go to Queens because we've done that. We've done this movie.
Didn't we say we're doing the hits here?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying you could have, like I said, you could have put her in L.A. or something. Mm-hmm. That way, the flamboyant lifestyle that she's used to blends in better because Lord knows California is a bunch of freaks. So being dressed as a princess with all this royal thing on would barely go noticed. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She would blend in better, but she would also get that cultural shock because you lived in California. You know how the people act there. She would have blended in a lot better, which would have made the experience better. But it's one of those things that, if they would have done that, I would have feared they would have went totally off the left field, made it, well, why does she have to marry a man? Why can't this be, why can't she fall in love with a woman? And they would have went that whole route, which...
she'd have come back and married Mirembe.
Yeah, and they would have had a relationship, and then they was like, well, it makes more sense because why are you saying that she has to marry a man? Which, don't even get me started on that, or I'll start yelling at clouds. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that we'll see that pop up. I'm calling it now on this podcast. You will see somebody bitch and complain about that not being some narrative in that movie that she was forced to marry a man and she couldn't choose her own life. Which what people don't realize is, hello, countries outside of America, they don't live by American standards. So go figure.
Yeah, I'm actually waiting for someone to criticize the... Oh, well, of course they had to do the gender equality thing, and so Leslie Jones gets the royal bath treatment. They changed. First they did it with Eddie Murphy. The royal penis is clean, Your Highness. Ha ha. Blowjobs. Get it? That's funny. Well, they did it with Leslie Jones this time because, hey, gender equality. Isn't it funny when it happens to a woman too? Get it? That's all fine. But
you know that she's a woman? Are you misidentifying her?
Who? Leslie Jones?
Yes.
Leslie Jones, last time I checked, identifies as a woman. Jerk.
Do you know that? Have you checked in the last 5 minutes? That could have changed.
Anyway.
She looks like a man. Is what I'm saying.
Leave Leslie Jones alone.
She's going to block me on Twitter now if she had one.
I was going to say, she's deleted that a long time ago. I was going to make a point about this. Oh, you know what they're going to get in trouble for, though? They're going to get in trouble for the gag, the rehashed gag about the foreign wife just being a servant to the husband. So they did this in the original Coming to America. That's why he ran away from her, and they actually showed it in the flashback, the clips, which was, by the way, I know it's 30 years later. When they do it once to kind of maybe set things up to remind people what this movie's going to be about, I would have been okay with it. They did it. They sprinkled clips from the previous movie all throughout this movie up till the very end. And that was like, come on, man, make a new movie or don't. I can just watch the original, you fucks.
But basically they found shit that they wanted. That they just found the cutting room floor, like the deleted scenes, and just added them into this movie.
Yeah, this is fucking lazy editing and movie creation. But what I was trying to get to, so we can move on, is you have that. So they did the gag in the original movie of bark like a dog, and she barks, and of course they had to bring her back for the sequel, right? And he's like, yeah, I don't want this. I don't want a wife that won't challenge me. I want a wife that I can connect with and will challenge me. And you being married, because I'm sure can speak as intelligently to this that you don't. It might seem fun at first to marry a girl who's just going to do, as I like to joke about, who will be a yes girl to everything you want and say. But it's not. You want someone to kind of give you shit. You want someone to kind of balance you out and and to call you out when when you've gone off the rails. And that's what Eddie Murphy said in the first one. He was like, I want someone who I can connect with that will challenge me. They do the same thing here. They have the scene where Wesley Snipes' daughter and Lavelle are trying to connect at the party, and he's like, and now he's had this conversation with Mirembe about what favorite movies. Like, she has dreams, right? She has dreams. She wants to open a beauty salon. She likes the barbershop movies or whatever it was she said. She's a real person underneath all of that, and he tries to get he tries to pull the same thing out of Wesley Snipes' daughter, and she's like, I like whatever you like. And not for nothing, I was talking to Jesse about this. I really hate anyone that's like that. Like, I would prefer that you hate everything that I hate or disagree with everything that I disagree with than to just not be as opposed to not being a person at all. And that's what she is. She's just a blank slate. She's like, I like whatever you like. Whatever, He's like, do you want to start a business? And she's like, I'll start whatever you want to start. And at which point, that's when he's like, I give up, and runs away. I have a sneaking suspicion if this catches any kind of fire on Twitter, people are going to center on that, and that's going to be the focus of this movie. Not the other 80, not the other 109 minutes of the movie that took place, where there's plenty of other things to criticize. That's the thing they're going to focus on.
Yeah, and, this is, you like people that hate everything you do. That's why you and Winfrey have the relationship you do when reviewing movies. Because I don't think I've ever heard you and him agree on anything. But, yeah, I mean, I like being challenged. I'm also a father. I also have a 13-year-old daughter who I want to have her own opinion about things. I want her to be able to think for herself and not just be a mindless drone that wants to please some guy. And just, I want her to be loved for her opinions and for her intelligence and being her unique self.
Same thing with me. That's why I know some of the Lily stuff drives everyone a little crazy, but I encourage it because I want her to grow up to be her own person and not an appendage to someone else. Yeah,
and I mean, if it bothers people, fuck them. I mean, you're teaching your daughter to be independent, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. I've known too many girls who, I don't want to call the guy out by name, but I remember a friend of a friend, his girlfriend. She's the kind of gal that just kind of sat and watched us play D&D or sat and watched us, watch wrestling, and she was into neither, but she was there because he was there, and it's like, I'd rather you just not be here at all. Or say you hate it. Come in the room and say D&D is for nerds and walk away. I will respect you more.
Yeah, I mean, I've dated girls like that. I've dated girls that have not been into anything that I'm into, but will be up my ass because I'm doing it. And they don't want to give you that space, and they don't want to do anything on their own because they're so insecure. And I mean, and that's what it is. And me and my wife, we agree on a lot of things. We differ on a lot of things. We balance each other out. And I think that's what a relationship needs to be, is a balance. You don't need to be, a good way I put it to my wife is she's everything that I lack in, and I'm everything that she lacks in.
So overall, my good, the bad, and the ugly on this, and I'll give you the final word and we'll move on. I hate to use the phrase, this was completely unnecessary, who asked for this. I hate when other reviewers do that, because who asked for it? I don't know, the people that, or why was this necessary? Well, it's necessary because you got to put shit out to make money. Who asked for this? Anyone that watched it. But I do feel like they told, I didn't feel like this was a story worth telling, I guess is where I was going with this. I didn't, I said the way I pitched it to you, I think would have made this maybe a story worth telling. The way they did this here, where I didn't love the plot, and so already your bones, your structure of this thing is not great. And then half of it is a recitation of previous gags that everyone saw in the first movie with no updating. It's basically like, remember this shit we did in Coming to America? Well, here it is again for you to laugh at. And I mean, funny is funny, but if you're going to... This in no way elevated the original material. It's either a regurgitation or the new stuff isn't great. There's a handful of funny sight gags. There's some really good performances. People look like they're having a good time, and so and that's sort of the trick with being, with doing critical analysis of film and just being a casual watcher. Like, I watched Moxie earlier today, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't think too deeply about it. There were some things. I think the most in-depth thought I had is, can I show this to Lily? No, I can't. There's certain things in it that I don't want her as a 10-year-old to see at this time. She can be 13, 14, and then she'll be old enough that we can discuss some of what's in that movie. But that's it. The rest of it, I just watched because I was, it entertained me. I enjoyed it. If I hadn't decided I was going to review this with you, I would have watched it. I would have said, okay, I was entertained for 2 hours, and then never thought of it again. The problem is, I had to think about it. I had to think about structure and craft and all of the elements that go into making a good movie versus a bad movie. And the problem is, it's a bad movie when you start to do that. You realize, outside of a handful of performances and the costumes are phenomenal. It's probably the best part of this movie. This looks great. The costumes are great. Some of the performances are good. There are funny sight gags. The rest of it is fucking trash. And everyone involved in making this should be ashamed of themselves. It's awful.
Well, I don't think... I think that this was a vanity project for a lot of people just to work together. And like you said earlier, it was people looked like they was generally having fun with the movie. Like we said, Wesley Snipes was probably happy to be working again. But I mean, it was okay.
I think you in the chat you said it was fine, you jerk.
Yeah, it was fine. So I mean, you had a movie, and what I think that they done is they took a movie that was beloved. They knew that generation has grown up, and they have, kids that they could show a PG-13 Coming to America movie with, and they cashed in.
Yeah.
This was a money grab.
Yep.
They had the nostalgia factor. They knew the audience because that's minding your generation. That they knew we was going to watch it. And it was like, hey, we could do this, and we can play the hits for the generation that grew up on the original, and maybe their kids will like the new version. And what they put out was absolute dog shit.
One other thing that is good about this movie, at least to me, and I think worth checking out, is the music. I actually really enjoy the music. It's not always like my, hip-hop and R&B is usually not my thing. But I thought music played a good role in setting the atmosphere for a lot of these scenes, especially like in the court and all of that. I thought the music was I thought they used the music well. And if you're interested in hearing the music, not to mention it had Smash the Crowd from Public Enemy on there, and we all know how much I love Public Enemy. You had a performance of En Vogue and Salt and Peppa doing a What a King, We Are Family mashup. Of course, that also had Randy Watson and your favorite group, Sexual Chocolate. In any case, the soundtrack is actually available on Amazon Music for you to check out. If you're watching this movie and you enjoyed the music as much as I did, you should go to Amazon Music right now. Use our link at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. That's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Get your free 30 days, and you can check out all the great songs that were on Coming to America. And when you're done with that, you can check out Eddie Murphy's solo album, which I'm sure is on there somewhere, and check out Public Enemy, check out Salt and Peppa, and then when you're done with that, check out the Fat Boys. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I pushed the Fat Boys on Jesse, and he is a better man for it.
What would have you just brought up a very funny throwback that would have been great. What if they would have put slid Party All the Time into the soundtrack somewhere?
Right?
I would have lost it.
If he was like, and now we are celebrating the union of our two countries, Nextoria and Zamunda, and then he just got up and started doing Party All the Time, and like everybody joined in, and it was a big singing finale. Oh, that'd have been great.
I agree, but like I said, I mean, we're beating this horse as bad as a bastard son. So If you're ready to move on, we can.
We can absolutely move on to the news.
And now I'm up at news flash.
Well, you want to know what would have helped? This movie a lot.
I don't know, but you're talking over my news bit. Go ahead.
I was going to tell you if they would have used Grammarly.com to actually help write the script.
No, Grammarly is what we do. Grammarly, the Grammarly ad when we do the critical review.
No.
do I need to send you like a script?
You do not. Hey, look, this is the first time I've got to do ads with you. I don't know. You act like I listen to your show or something.
I listen to your show, you jerk.
Honestly, I've got 6 episodes of yours downloaded. I just haven't got around to, with work and the funeral and everything. I just haven't got to listen.
Well, we end the craft review with a brief conversation about the music, and that gets the Amazon plug. Then we do the news, that gets no plug. But then we do the critical review at the end, that gets the Grammarly plug. Okay. You good?
Okay, now? Master Mark. Okay, yep. I'll let you run your show how you run it. I'll just
thanks. I get to be in charge.
I'll just be eye candy.
That's right. You're talent. I'm management. All right. I'm also a jerk. Let's move on. Our first story here. We don't have too many tonight. We've talked a lot this week about a lot of what's happening in the news. If nothing else, you should check out our conversation about Lola Bunny, which had me crying. I was laughing so hard. This one, not so much. This one isn't funny, haha. This is going to frustrate the fuck out of you, Jason. This comes from Deadline, and Turner Classic Movies puts classic films, Breakfast at Tiffany's, Tarzan, Psycho, Gone with the Wind, and more under Microscope for offensive content.
For fuck's sakes. Quit being so overly goddamn sensitive, you fucking snowflakes. Realize that movies were fucking made in a whole different light. Fucking culture has grown since then. People have evolved. Thoughts have evolved. Grow the fuck up. Quit being goddamn fucking whiny bitches.
So, here's what they're going to do, see? Turner Classic Movies, the Warner Media-owned cable channel dedicated to the loving presentation of Hollywood's cinematic heritage right from the beginning of the medium to now, has also jumped into the cancel culture fray, announcing it will be dedicating primetime programming every Thursday for the month of March, beginning yesterday, as a matter of fact, with a new series called Reframed, Classic Films in the Rearview Mirror. The network put it this way. All of the films in this series are legendary classics, but when we watch them today, we're seeing them in a different cultural context. We often see problems now that we might not have seen when they were made, whether it's about race, gender, or LGBT issues. TCM's 5 hosts will take turns doing roundtable introductions of each of the films, where they will discuss the 20th century films with a 21st century perspective. The goal is never to censor, but simply provide rich historical context to each classic. So essentially, starting with Gone with the Wind, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, Rope, and The Four Feathers, I guess before they show the movie, they're going to have a roundtable discussion over the sort of buzzworthy issues of the day related to these movies. I don't hate this idea. I think conversation is worth having on a myriad of subjects, not the least of which is what might be considered questionable material in art. And as long as that's all it amounts to, I'm kind of fine with it. If it was, we're not going to show these movies anymore because of the treatment of gay people or the treatment of blacks or whatever, and you're talking about Gone with the fucking Wind, then I would be like, wait a minute, don't burn the entire history of film, because you think it might offend somebody. Have a conversation, and that's what they're talking about here.
No, they're not. They're pushing an agenda.
Okay.
It's fine. Okay, you got to take things in context. That's like this is a prime example. You see news clippets and sound bites and everything, and you're like, oh, this person said this. You get a snippet. That's just like this. This is a snippet in time. You got to look at the context, the broader picture. What was going on at that time? Why was it portrayed that way? Was there a stereotype at that time? Yes. You check all those boxes. That's why they were portrayed that way. And because of the culture changes. It's an ever-evolving thing. You know, could Ace Ventura be made nowadays? No, because it would be fucking ripped apart. Because people are already going back and ripping it apart. Because at that time, transgender people were not widely accepted. Now they are. So why take the past and try to use today's standards? Look at the context, look at the time frame, and grow the fuck up. Realize the world does not revolve around you. Just because one person offended, 1,500 may love it. Quit being so self-fucking-centered and just quit. The cancel culture thing has got me so pissed off because if you're offended, everybody can get offended at everything. If you don't like it, don't fucking participate in it. Don't watch it. Don't read it. Don't react to it. Be a human, because the world does not revolve around you, Cupcake. I'm sorry to tell you that.
You don't think trying to put a film into context and saying, hey, here's what was going on at the time. So they did this with Gone with the Wind. That's what this started off with. The article says that Gone with the Wind was the subject of critical rethinking by TCM's new sibling HBO Max, which removed it from its nascent streaming service during last summer's racial unrest and following a Los Angeles Times opinion piece from screenwriter John Ridley that criticized the film for glorifying slavery and perpetuating racist stereotypes about African Americans. At the time, the streamer said it would eventually be reinstated with a discussion of its historical context and a denouncement of those very depictions. Before I continue to read this, Alexis, who friend of the show and often comes on Damn You Hollywood and Comic Strip, has brought up the Golden collection of Looney Tunes cartoons that starts off with Whoopi Goldberg basically saying, hey, some of these cartoons were all of these cartoons are from a different time, and some of them reflect the time that they were in terms of racial stereotypes, and it would be wrong to just erase them from history, but we should at least, we should in fact acknowledge them and have a discussion about this. But they're here for you to enjoy and have that discussion. And I'm just murdering what she said, but basically, before the Golden collections, Whoopi Goldberg gives this preamble, and I've seen it. I used to own the Golden collections when I used to own DVDs. I liked it. I thought that was a good idea. I thought, acknowledging that, hey, Bugs Bunny nips the nips probably doesn't work in 2021, but at the time we were at war with the Japanese and they were killing, lots of people. And then eventually we dropped two atomic bombs on them.
That's right. Back World War champions.
So maybe, just maybe, it's worth noting that cartoon reflects a different attitude towards the Japanese, not one that we think is great today.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Great point. I'm going to bring this point up to you, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
You're a father. You have two children. Would you rather me or Pat educate your kids? Or would
okay, well, I don't want Pat educating my kids at all.
No. Hypothetically, would you rather me or Pat, knowing how me and Pat are,
mm-hmm.
especially Pat, educating your kids about things, or would you rather take it upon yourself to be like, okay, I know my kids, I know how to structure something and get my point across, to say, okay, well, this is why this is wrong. This is why this is portrayed this way. Or having Pat come in like a bull at a china shop and tell you everything that's fucking wrong with the world and how everything should go back to the 80s.
Okay, so if you're talking about specifically the Whoopi Goldberg thing with the Looney Tunes, because what kids watching Gone with the Wind on Turner Classic Movies? I'm not sure my kids know Turner Classic Movies exist or what Gone with the Wind is.
Well, no, I'm using the Whoopi Goldberg thing, the Muppets thing.
Okay.
That you could find me and Eric Watkins talking about on Black Irish on the W2M Network archives. But would you rather be a parent and bring these conversations to your kid and explain them, or have somebody else that is is known to push a certain agenda, do it for you.
Okay. The answer to your question is I'll parent my own kids, but I don't see a warning.
Exactly.
I don't see a warning or a panel discussion before something. Okay, so like I took Lily to go see The Matrix when it was having its anniversary and it was back in theaters, and I forgot that it was rated R. Whoops. But I also, it's so funny. I'm watching Moxie, and Moxie has a scene of a teenage girl and a teenage boy making out in the car, and they almost have sex, but it stops. It just stops. Watch the movie, you'll find out why. At the end of the movie, a girl accuses a boy of raping her from a previous year. This is the movie takes place a year after that incident occurred, and she says, "Hey, a year ago, I got raped by this character in the movie," and I was like, "Okay, between those two things, I can't show this to my daughter. I'm perfectly okay with The Matrix, though." Like 2 hours of people being shot to pieces, and I'm like, exactly. Yeah, it's fine.
You know what you're comfortable with your kids knowing. You know the conversations you want to have with your kids.
I'm just such an American Puritan. Like as many perv jokes as I make, and as much stuff as I've said publicly about sex, when it comes to my own kids, I am as Puritan as the day is long. Like I don't like anything having to do with sex and that kind of stuff. I'm like, they don't need to see that. Boobs, the human body, yuck. Shooting people to death, yeah, we're fine with this.
Yeah,
it's so American.
I'm the same way. I try to I shelter my daughter on certain things, but when me and her's got the top off the Jeep and we're listening to some '90s gangster rap,
yeah, sure,
hey, it's fine. It's fine.
Absolutely.
But I think that they need to, if you're going to do it from get somebody that is beloved by everyone, not hated.
Okay.
By one side of the side of the country.
Let me answer your question because I drifted off into this this sort of self-reflection about my parenting. The bottom line is I'm the parent. I will talk to them, but I don't agree with your stance on the Muppets thing. I'm actually in favor of the warning sign as long as let me be clear. I don't care about warnings. I didn't care when I was a kid if there was a warning, a tipper sticker. Do you know the term tipper sticker, or am I dating myself too much?
No, that's the reason why the tipper sticker became relevant is because of the game Mortal Kombat.
Okay. Well, the tipper sticker precedes Mortal Kombat by like a decade. And it started with heavy metal music, the Satanic Panic and all of that. For you kids who might be listening to this and like, where is this fucking discussion going? Tipper Gore was the wife of Al Gore, and because of her, there were hearings on profanity in music, which resulted in they wanted a rating system. They didn't get it. What they got were the parental advisory explicit lyric sticker, which has now gone away because everything has gone to streaming. But back when you used to be able to buy physical music and not just hipster LPs. You used to get a parental advisory warning sticker, and you can find them, as Jason said. I think the most relevant thing to people now would be you'd find them on video games, which are still a physical medium. In any case, I didn't care when I was a kid. I was like, thanks for letting me know that that they're going to say fuck on this Metallica album. I don't care. Neither does my dad. I don't care that this entire Two Live Crew, as nasty as they want to be album with the naked asses on it.
I love that. I love that album.
Is going to be full of sexually explicit stuff, and neither does and I don't care, and neither does my dad. But for those that did, the warning sticker was fine. Fast forward years to the Muppets. As long as they're not editing the actual episodes and they're just saying, "Hey, you're choosing to watch this crap. If something offends you, you've been warned. Something's going to probably offend you. It was made in the fucking 70s." Which is really how I would have worded it, actually. Hey, assholes!
I'm gonna go off on a philosophical rant here.
Okay. Are you not liking my answers?
No. This is one thing that I enjoy with you, Mark, because we do have different opinions on stuff. We could talk about it, have an educated conversation. We see each other's viewpoint. we at the end of the day, I'm not telling you to go fuck yourself when we're not friends. We have educated conversations. We can disagree on stuff, and it doesn't affect our friendship. But
Sure.
with that being said, is the Muppets made for? When you watch the Muppets, was you thinking, "Oh, that is portraying a certain race wrong," or was you enjoying the fucking show?
Okay,
Because
well, I was a
enjoyed
child
the
when the
show.
Muppets were on, so I'm going to say I
Exactly.
was enjoying it.
Is the Muppets made for adults?
It was at the time. That wasn't a children's show.
Okay, but was you watching it as a child?
Dude, I watched Night Court and the A-Team. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I'm right there with you. But this is my stance on this.
Mm-hmm.
Racism or prejudice, it is not inbred into you. It is taught by your surroundings. I see kids of all different colors, shapes, sizes, and everything. They go to a playground, they play together. They're kids. You don't get the prejudice and racism until it is taught, not learned. That's my problem. You enjoy stuff for what it is. You take shit at face value. People are taking stuff too fucking literal. They're taking stuff that was made and wanting to view it through today's standards. Today's standards you could find everything, you could look at anything and find something wrong to offend somebody. If you're looking at it through today's standards, you learn, you adapt. Right. It is a progression. You might have looked at something. Perfect example is Dumbo.
Mm-hmm.
The crows in Dumbo.
Sure.
When you watched it, was you thinking, man, this is totally racism? Or did you think, hey, it's talking birds?
No, I thought about it at the time that I saw Dumbo as a child, especially a child growing up in the black neighborhood. There's just jive talking birds. Exactly.
You grew up in a black neighborhood. I grew up poor as shit. I had friends. I didn't see color. I still don't see color. I treat you for how good of a person you are and your attitude toward me, not the color of your skin. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about your sexual preference. I don't give a fuck about the color of your skin or your opinion. If it doesn't affect me, I don't give a fuck. I treat you how I think you deserve to be treated. I treat you like a human being. I don't put any context on anything. Don't be a dick. That's my rule. You're cool with me, I'm cool with you. I don't care about anything in your life. If you're my friend, you're my friend, no matter what preference, what color, what ideology you have. If you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. Me and Alexa disagree on a lot of things. Does that change my friendship with her? No. Do me and her sometimes have conversations sporadically about our differing opinions? Yeah. Me and you differ. We have conversations. Me and Eric differ vastly, and once the alcohol and everything starts flowing, you're going to see that on Black Irish. Me and him, very, very different political views. It doesn't change his friendship. I still, his mom tells me to refer to her as mom because I recently lost mine, and she wants to be that surrogate, and give me that person that I could turn to. It's a ideology in today's society that everything offends somebody, and if the world doesn't revolve around me, there's a problem.
Okay,
that's the problem.
I'm going to make one counter argument, and I'm going to read you something, and then I'm going to give you the last word, and then we're going to move off the story. Okay.
Okay.
Here's my counter argument. Much like the Muppets, they're not editing the films themselves. They're not touching the art. They're having a discussion about the art, and one of the criticisms is, okay, but they're using a modern lens to talk about it. I don't see why that's a problem, as long as if it's a discussion about craft and the time that it took place and why things are portrayed a certain way and what is the point of the movie, if you're having a film discussion about a piece of art and you're just trying to tackle it from all bases, and in some sense you're trying to educate people who might be, let's say you're a Twitter stan or a millennial or just a young asshole, and you're watching, I'm going to bring up Psycho, because that's the next thing I'm going to read you. And it's also one of the movies on this list. And you're watching Psycho, and you're offended by something you see in Psycho. I don't think it's the worst thing ever to have people who are smart about film talk about, well, hang on, there's no reason to get offended by this. Here's what's happening here, and here's why it was done that way, and here's what this represents, and it's probably not what you're thinking it is. You're taking it to a place it was never intended by people who did the film 100 years ago, or however long, Hitchcock's original Psycho. As an aside, and I brought this up, I don't remember if it was on a podcast or not. If people who listen to Damn You Hollywood have heard me say this before, I apologize for repeating the same story. But, Lily walked out of The Return of the King, and she was like, I really like these movies. I liked going to the movies with you. I liked this experience, and I'm paraphrasing here. I like that you take me to all these different film experiences. I think, it brings us closer. I enjoy it, even if I don't like the movie. And I'm like, great, that's why we do it. She said, my only problem is it's hard for me to watch all of these movies where the female characters get minimized and they don't have enough to do, or they're on screen for a few minutes and then they're gone again, and it just feels like the men have so much to do for so much of the movie. Aren't women important? And I said, Lily, you got to understand, if Tolkien wrote The Lord of the Rings in 2020, it would be a completely different movie with different characters. He wrote it after his experience in World War I, where he thought the world was ending. And, and he was also a man of that time. So you're not going to see the kinds of, you're not going to see from his perspective the world you're seeing now from your perspective. The story he's telling is about the world coming to an end and trying to find hope to hold on to when everything else has burned around you. That's it. It's not a gender story. It's a story about hope, and about not giving in to the worst impulses of your personality. And it's written in this high fantasy world. And she was like, okay, I get it. I was like, you can't always watch a film from a completely different era from a modern perspective. You have to take it all into context. If that's the discussion these people are going to have before they watch Psycho and Tarzan and Gone with the Wind and My Fair Lady, I'm all for that. If this was a panel of people going, these are the worst movies I've ever seen because gay people and black people aren't represented well, and here's why, okay, then I see your point. Then that's not fair. But I can't imagine. I mean, I know one of the people doing this is Alicia Malone, who I'm not particularly fond of, but I know she knows her film, and I know that she respects all of these movies, and she's not going to be somebody out there shitting on them. And so why not? Like I said, I do this podcast, we're having this discussion, and I listen to other people talk about film because I enjoy those kinds of conversations. I think that's all they're talking about here. That's all they're talking about doing.
Okay, counterpoint real quick.
Yep.
Now, if doing stuff at the front of something, does that not skew your opinion already and set you on a narrative to...
There was a commenter on the article that said, that's great, I'll DVR it and I'll just fast forward through the conversation. So, me personally, no, but clearly there are people who are like you, who are like, yeah, I don't need to watch this.
No, I'm saying that, I'm all up for, having discussions.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do something, if I'm setting the precedent before you even see it,
right?
I've already painted the picture of what's wrong, because what you say is wrong and what I feel is wrong could be vastly different.
Mm-hmm.
You could see something in a film and be like, that really bothers me. I could see it and go, that I have no thing. But if you're telling somebody about it you're going to give them the preconceived notion. And then if I came along and tell them about it, they're going to be like, well, this is how I already feel a certain way about it before I even see it.
Right.
That's like a movie. If I tell you, perfect example, we love Pat. Pat hated Coming to America. He said it was the biggest piece of shit he's ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read it, guess what I had? Guess what my expectations of Coming to America were going into it.
Not high.
Exactly. Now, if I would have just went in with it without hearing that narrative, I might have enjoyed the movie a little bit more.
You know what, though? You're not wrong. Because I know people who will read a review of something and then their viewing experience, despite themselves, is skewed. Which I get. You know, I know there's people who won't listen to this podcast until they see the movie. Dude, I do the same thing. I listen to the critically acclaimed podcast with Whitney Seibold and William Bibbiani, and like their last podcast, they did Tom and Jerry Cherry, Wrong Turn, and The People versus Billie Holiday. And I intended to watch Cherry and The People versus Billie Holiday, so I haven't listened to those two segments yet. I listened to their Tom and Jerry review already, but I haven't listened to those two segments yet of the same podcast, because I want to watch the movies first before I hear what they had to say, and not to pick out a wound or anything. I had a different experience with Cuties, because I had heard them. I hadn't intended to watch the movie, and I don't want to get into the merits of it again. We did a whole podcast on it. You can hear my thoughts. That's all that needs to be said about it. The point that I'm trying to get at is, I hadn't intended to watch the movie until I heard Whitney Seibold review it, and I was like, oh, he doesn't think it's that bad. He recognizes the issues with the movie and why it's getting the flack that it's getting, but he explained it XYZ way, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Let me check this thing out now and see if my viewing experience jives with what he thinks the movie is going on in the movie. And it largely did. And I managed to piss everybody off around me by saying that, and that's fine. But my point in bringing it up is, it colored me the other way, to where I heard the review of it and was like, oh, that sounds like something I should probably give a chance to. And I think I tried to make that argument and was thrown in a trunk and beaten silly. So, moving on. Alicia Malone, who has spent some time with the Screen Junkies folks doing Movie Fight and stuff like that. She's an okay reviewer. She, like I said, she's definitely a film aficionado. Definitely has a thing for the classics. Suggested including something about the way trans people and gender identity have been treated. That led to the inclusion of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, which I had to confess I never thought of in that way. I think the trans community is often left out of conversations like this, and it's just looking at it through, again, a different modern lens of what does it mean to have a villain who dresses up like his mother. And if they mention the word transsexual in the film, which is, of course, a very outdated term now, they talk about it being a mental illness. And so all of these can be problematic when we look at maybe some of the real-life repercussions of having a trans character or a cross-dressing character be either something very comedic to laugh at or something quite horrific to think of as monstrous, particularly when you see the studies that most American people encounter an image of trans persons through film and television rather than in real life, Malone said. So I read that paragraph because it kind of talks about what you said before of... the idea that people may look at a movie or a television show and reach a conclusion the show never meant it to reach, and certainly nobody else ever thought of that way, but suddenly it becomes that. And I think having a conversation that addresses it is probably a good idea. But I've had my say. I'm going to give you the last word, and then we're going to move on. Go ahead.
All right, now when I seen Psycho, the trans thing never occurred to me. I didn't think. I looked at it as a mental illness, and the fact that he had a psychotic break because he could not let go of his mother. He was such a sheltered mama's boy, in layman's terms, that he was living. He had a psychotic break, and he had. I'm not going. I know I'm going to butcher the psychological term and the medical term for this. He has basically a form of schizophrenia, associative disorder, and I think that's what That's what I took out of Psycho. I never took it as, oh, he's being trans. I never thought that until somebody told me to think that. I think interpretation is key on a lot of things. So with that, now, if you would have said Ace Ventura, totally agree there. That film paints a trans character in a very negative light. I mean, you know, you have the vomit gags and stuff. When you find out it was, so I could see the backlash on that from a trans community. Psycho, I don't see it as that because I see it as a mental break that he is having basically a form of schizophrenia, that he is not grasping the fact that his mother's gone. That's why he keeps her body there, and he's living a dual life as Norman Bates and as his mother.
Right, but I think what you just said there is probably going to be part and parcel of whatever conversation they're going to have about it, about how most people who have seen Psycho probably don't see it that way, and there's a vocal minority out there that probably see it this other way, and so let's have a conversation about it.
And just a quick hit. I think if you're going to do a conversation, you need to have an open conversation. You don't need to have a skewed panel where everybody agrees with one narrative. I mean, you need to have both sides of the fence.
Are you saying like they should have more of like a debate style conversation on these things, not everybody kind of in turn agreeing with one another?
Right, and this goes back to our comment earlier. You got to have the balance. If without the balance, you're going to get a skewed narrative. You're only going to hear basically one side of. You're going to get one opinion everybody's going to agree with, and you're not going to see. Everybody's not going to be represented in the discussion.
All right. All right. Good conversation. I actually really enjoyed that. So thank you for having it with me. I appreciate it. Let's go do our critical review, and let's get out of here. How's that sound?
That works for me.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The critical review for Coming to America is brought to you by Grammarly. Grammarly's AI products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. Dude, you do your own podcast. You communicate on the web all the time. That's how you and I mostly communicate with each other. What do you think of Grammarly? Isn't it great?
I actually use Grammarly in my job now, writing. Helped me get my resume together, as well as writing professional style emails and being able to convey my thoughts in a more professional manner when speaking to the higher ups, so I can be taken more serious and be more sound like I'm more informed than what I actually am, to help convey a better narrative when getting my point across in emails and subtext when typing out my show reviews for my podcast.
Outstanding. So for people who want to be like Jason here and get on that Grammarly train, Grammarly's offering a free 30 days of their software if you use our link, which is getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Go to the site, click the link, sign up, get your free 30 days. Helps us out, helps you out. We all benefit from Grammarly. Helps me out greatly with all the things that I do. Helps Jason out. It's just, with all the communicating we do on the web right now through various means and ways, Grammarly is almost essential software. Everybody I know uses it. It's great. So get your free 30 days of Grammarly right now to check it out for yourself at getgrammarly.com/W2M network. All righty.
I do got to commend you on something.
Yes.
That was a very, very much improved ad read than the wrestling show that I listened to with you and the Podsman.
Yeah, I'm getting used to it. I've been doing this for over 10 years, and we never had an advertiser before. I'm kind of learning on the job here. All right. Kevin Cara, fat guy at the movies. Feels exactly like what it is. It's a movie that was made 30 years later than it should have been. It's worth the 2 hours to watch it, but I wouldn't pay any money.
I thought he was going to say, it's shit.
K. Austin Collins, Rolling Stone top critic. Coming to America is a good time. Even more, it's evidence that this actor-director pair are on the verge of something great. Ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's called death.
Brian Lowry of CNN.com, top critic. It's among the few movies redirected from theaters to streaming that have genuinely lost something because of it. That said, it's still a good deal of fun, reassembling old faces from the 1980 original while adding plenty of new ones. What did you lose in this experience? Like, this wasn't like high on CGI or anything. This isn't Kong versus Godzilla.
We there. I do need to go. I do need to talk about the Green Lion. That was absolutely shit. But you know what they lost? They lost an audience for making this movie because I'm pretty sure that whoever our generation that watched this immediately wanted to pop in their original to cleanse their palate and actually find Eddie Murphy funny again.
I'm actually wondering how many people made, because you watched it at home, how many people made it through the whole thing without stopping and just putting on the original.
I would honestly say probably about 50% because it crossed my mind quite a few times.
Paul McGuire Grimes of KSTP TV. This film is made for the fans, and they made the wise choice to not just make it a carbon copy rehash of the first film. I don't think he watched the same movie.
I don't either, because this was a carbon copy rehash of the first film.
Debashine Savangelo.
Gesundheit.
Yeah. Independent Online, South Africa. The script is witty and laden with plenty of side-splitting moments. At the same time, it is underpinned by an unmistakable, empowering female trope. Okay. We talked at length about how the women in this movie were like really minimized.
Oh yeah, Lily would hate this movie, and she very well would have a reason. The girls were the best part of this movie, and they were nothing. They had about as much screen time as the fat announcer guy who was beloved in the first one. Louis Anderson might have had more time than the girls.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable to see him on screen again.
Oh, yeah.
John Serba of Decider. Coming to America is a winner. A lively outing that delivers consistent, good-spirited comedy. Stop writing for DVD boxes. They don't exist anymore.
What the fuck was this guy watching? Did he have a stroke watching this movie or something? I bet I know what it was. He did exactly what we said. He started Coming to America, the second one, realized how big of a bag of shit it was, put on the original and said, fuck it, I'll just wing it.
So, in another one, I'm not entirely sure what he watched. Andre Hereford of Metro Weekly, Washington, D.C. Girl power reigns in Coming to America, Eddie Murphy's enjoyable sequel to one of his biggest 80s hits. I don't even think the women in this movie would agree with that.
Yeah, and that's another one that, Lisa had absolutely nothing to do with this in this movie. She was there. And that was it. She played the wife, the uppity bitch wife, that totally forgot her roots, that she was from Queens.
Yeah, they had that one line in the movie and then they did nothing with it.
Yeah, and it was like, it would have been nice if it would have been Lisa that reminded him that, it was he did exactly the same thing when they got together. He followed his heart to be with somebody that he wanted to be with and bucked the trend of what his father wanted for him. You know, that would have been a nice little touch, but she was relegated to be uppity bitch number one.
Michael Phillips of Chicago Tribune, top critic. The script's wit beams on and off, but there's a dance party finale and the viewer glides into the bungled outtake and end credits in an easygoing mood. Stop trying to get invited to parties, sir.
Yeah, nobody likes you.
Robert Daniels of Polygon, top critic. A narratively thin and silly nostalgia trip that will appease older fans with a story that's as much about rediscovering existing roots as planting new ones. Well, we are those... we are those older fans, and it did not appeal to us, sir.
Exactly. Maybe he should. Maybe he meant to say he wanted to watch Roots instead of this movie.
Let's see here. George M. Thomas of Akron Beacon Journal. Beneath all of the goofiness and one-liners is a film that has more than a bit of heart and a message.
What was the message? I didn't see Samuel L. Jackson come across the screen. I mean, no, it's
Keenan Ivory Wayne's buddy.
Yeah, keep it. Well, with the cast they had, it would have made more sense to have been Samuel L. Jackson.
They couldn't get him. I read they actually tried. They couldn't get him because of scheduling conflicts.
I mean, we got Morgan fucking Freeman.
Neil Minow of Movie Mom, top critic. Silly fun, but unnecessary references to other Murphy films for which additional unnecessary sequels are apparently underway. It's the MCU, Murphy Cinematic Universe. That's actually really funny.
I can agree with that. I mean, I don't know what other ones there. I did like all the Lion King references that you got before James Earl Jones died. You know, we got one Darth Vader and two or three Lion King references and a Darth Vader reference. That made me happy.
Last one, and then we'll call it a night. Last two. I read both of these. Rob Hunter, Film School Rejects. We still get some laughs thanks mainly to Wesley Snipes and Arsenio Hall, but the film lacks both bite and fresh wit. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, Wesley Snipes made this movie to me. I mean,
I agree with this one. Sean Burns of North Shore Movies. Maybe they should have just made a sexual chocolate concert movie instead. Agreed.
Oh, I would have loved the sexual chocolate movie. Or they would have just done the barbershop bit the entire time. I would have been happy with that.
Okay, last one. For Dave Lee Down Under.
That must be a good one when you make that noise.
Not just a terrific follow-up to the 33-year-old classic, but it's a wonderful standalone film with plenty of heart and great laughs, some old, some new. It's a film that has something for everybody, and it's amazing to see Eddie back on top form. They really will let anybody onto Rotten Tomatoes these days.
What was his name?
Dave Lee.
Dave, go fuck yourself.
Nice. Well done.
Hey, I got to keep Winfrey's spirit alive somehow. For how he rips these critics.
All right. Well, this was fun. Go ahead and plug your. I guess the kickoff is done until August, right?
Oh no! The kickoff has went bi-weekly with our new co-host Kennedy, who recently joined the podcast, along with myself, Harry, and Eric. We tackle just about anything covering sports now, not just NFL. We've branched out and started doing any top sports story, as well as, our highly acclaimed, as I should say, because it's got a lot of good feedback. We sometimes get serious and have our Let's Talk About It episodes, where we tackle a lot of different topics that actually spun out to mine and Eric's new show, Black Irish. You
guys you need a graphic. It drives me nuts that it's like just the generic Spreaker thing.
Well, because Eric's black and he's lazy and he doesn't do anything. Because he has he has about 15 kids that he's tutoring, and he just never puts the graphic up because he completely forgets.
I swear to God, if one of you guys doesn't do it, I'm going to do it for you, and I'm gonna put up that one that just says "Kiss Me on Black Irish."
That's the one we want to use, but I don't know why he doesn't put it up. Also, I want to give a shout out to former co-host of the Kickoff, Randy Isbell, the R&R Sports Report. You can find them on Facebook, out of Idaho. Go give him a listen. They're doing a pretty good job. Randy's a good guy that want to definitely help him out, get him some more than 3 listeners that me, Eric, and Harry. So yeah, outside of that, you can also find me on Twitter at W2M Chairman.
All right. This was a really busy week. This is like podcast number 2 for me for the day. Earlier today, Robert Winfrey and I reviewed Boss Level on Hulu. If you like fun action movies, a lot of fist fight and sword play, and you like Frank Grillo, it's the movie for you. We had a lengthy discussion about the movies, a couple of movies moving dates, like Fast 9 and A Quiet Place 2. So we talked about that. We talked about the Lola Bunny redesign and laughed at a lot of the Twitter feedback hard. Earlier in the week, we started off with the Rough and Ready show on Source Material Live. Free preview. We hated it. We did a review of Tom and Jerry, where we also talked about the 6 books that Dr. Seuss Company will no longer be printing because of questionable material. We had a lengthy discussion on that. So check out our review of Tom and Jerry and then our post-discussion on Dr. Seuss. Jesse and I reviewed the new Epica album, Epica Omega, and no politics were discussed at all. And then Robert Winfrey and David Wright reviewed the 4 TNG Star Trek movies, Insurrection, First Contact, Generations, and the 4th one I can't remember. Tomorrow, my kids and I are going to do an alternative commentary for Tom and Jerry the movie from 1992. That'll be fun. My son requested doing something for Tom and Jerry week, and I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll do that. That'll be fun. You talking over movies always makes me laugh. Next week, we're kicking things off with a comic strip. It's the movie Extraction that debuted on Netflix last year with Chris Hemsworth. It's actually based on a comic book by the Russo brothers called Ciudad. So myself and Alexis Haina are going to compare the book to the graphic novel. Tuesday is our proper Damn You Hollywood. We'll be looking at the weekend box office and talking about Raya. This is how you pronounce it now. This is, as I learned today. Raya and the Last Dragon. Wednesday, we've got we'll be reviewing AEW Revolution, and then in the evening we'll be doing A Day to Remember, You're Welcome. Thursday, myself and Alexis Haina will review the new SpongeBob movie, which debuted on Paramount Plus today. Just got finished watching that before we recorded this podcast, as a matter of fact, and let me give you a free preview of what our podcast is going to sound like. Whoa. So
it's fine.
It's fine, sure. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? SpongeBob SquarePants. All right, Jason, you will be back sometime in the near future. I know we've got a long road to ruin for Porky's that we're going to do, and we've got some other stuff in the can. So you and Ronnie Adams, I got you. We've talked online. We've got some stuff in the works that we're going to do. So I can't wait to have you back again. And I know you're going to be coming on some Damn You Hollywoods. I think you said you wanted to do The Quiet Place 2. Which is now May 28th, so we'll have you on for that. Always a pleasure.
Yes, I mean, I always love, and as per usual, me and you always get together and talk about shitty movies. I mean, it's no Velocipaster or We're Your None, but we do what we do the best we can do with what we're given.
I can't wait for us to do the Long Road to Ruin for Porky's.
I'm kind of excited about it. Honestly.
Yeah, my wife says she wants to watch those with me, so I'm very excited about that too, because we don't watch hardly shit together. But she was like, "Oh my god, I loved Porky's when I was a kid," and I'm like, "Huh, 10 years married, I'm still learning shit about you."
Like I said, I mean, I don't think I've seen Porky's since I was in my teens. So I'm 42 now, so a good 30 years.
Let's have a discussion before we watch those movies about how they were written in a totally different time and place. Let's not. Let's just enjoy the movies.
Hey, why don't we have Pat do the intro to it? And then
some of the things you're going to see in Porky. Never mind. All right. This has been Damn You Hollywood. That's Jason Teasley. I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.